Good evening and welcome to PowerShift. My name is Rebecca Irby.
My name is Natalia Vanilla.
So this evening we have a little bit different of a show, and we're going to start with a moment of silence for our special guest, Ceyenne Dororshow, who is going to be joining us but had a death in the family. So we're just going to take a moment and send some love to our community and to Ceyenne and to her family and to her people. So just sending love. Natalia, I was going to say, it's been a really tough week, 2 weeks, month, year, lifetime.
It depends where you look.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are guestless today, as I mentioned, but we thought that it's important for us to gather and to still continue to forge ahead. These are really important topics, and we're so passionate and excited to be here and spend this hour with you all. So we invite you to join us. We're going to be talking about comfort food, the joys of it, what's going on, what's happening, and yeah, Natalia, this is actually your idea, which I'm so grateful to you for helping us get through this little mini crisis that we had this morning.
Yeah, it's a very difficult time, and one does not know how to, manage many things. And when it's still Thursday, the week is not over, but I don't know, for many people, how emotional this week has been. It has certainly been for me, and I know, Rebecca, you also have experienced some hardships, and I don't know our audience members if so, but we decided, to create maybe a space today where we talked about the healing power of comfort food. Just have a bit of like a rest from all the different topics that we've been, following through, all the news cycle that are happening, depending on the country that you connect, and maybe, tone it a bit down, but in a good way, and really enjoy our company and whole space. And I invite everybody that's joining us live and afterwards on our different media platforms to share with us your own journey with comfort food. Where has these plates or dishes actually rescued you from like a mini crisis or like anxiety, or the loss of loved ones? Today has been a very hard day, and we want to honor Ceyenne and send her a lot of love, and sending a lot of love as well to many people out there that need a hug. Please receive one. I mean, I can hug through the screen, but like, this is my hugging. Like, maybe we can create like an emoticon or like something to send over. And if you're with your loved ones eating at the same time as us, then hug them if possible. I think that hugs are underrated. We need hugs, we need kisses, we need more love, 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 and physical touch, even if this pandemic is not available and are allowing us to do so. But like, yeah, we crave human connection. So yeah, I would love to maybe ask you, Rebecca, what's your comfort food of choice and why do you choose it?
So I feel like my comfort food really changes depending on the season and what's happening and what I need comfort from. But I will say soup is normally like, it feels very grounding, but specifically pho, it's a Vietnamese soup. It has nothing to do with my culture or my background. I just love it. And the reason I love it is you can see all of these really beautiful, like fresh herbs and bean sprouts, and it's got lemon and just like such freshness, but it also has this really delicious, it's beef broth. So it's very grounding. And for someone like me who I am a meat eater, and that type of protein has always felt comforting and like makes me feel good on the inside and out. So this soup is one of my favorite go-tos when it's cold and damp outside, and like I can kind of feel it in my bones. Natalia, as you mentioned, I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning for a memorial service myself. So it's just, there's a lot going on. And I feel like soup, and specifically this kind of soup where there's a mix of the fresh and hot, I find just, it feels like a hug in a, I would say a bowl, but I don't actually have a bowl. I have a huge styrofoam. Well, it's made from plastic, so it's not real styrofoam. It's the new, specially made from plants styrofoam.
Good.
But you know, but what about you? What are you eating? What kind of comfort food is comforting you this evening?
Well, I would say comfort food will be like soup, but it's so hot outside that that's not a good idea if I want to, have a healthy, body temperature. So that's not what I envision. So I either thought about buying a hamburger like on takeout because that kind of like like puts me up. But then I said, no, I'm gonna cook back at home. I already had, these red beans and rice and a bit of guacamole. And yeah, I'm just like, yeah, let's just go homey style. Like for me, comfort food is a bit like home, like re- returns you back to your roots. Um, but yeah, I find that it changes through the seasons. It could be soup if it's too cold. And there's this meme on Facebook that I reshare it a lot because there appears two images. One like in Puerto Rico because there's so hot, it's so hot, like 100 degrees outside, like like cars can get melted, like like this kind of meme where the car is already melted, and then you go home. The second image appears of your mom. It's like, Mom, what's for cooking today? Soup. It's like, no, it's already hot outside. Don't give me more soup. But yeah, I think that soup is enticing because of the ingredients. Like you said, like the freshness. I mean, that doesn't necessarily have to be like this hard, a lot of, like ingredients and a lot of elements for the food, like the soup. Like it can be just as simple as even like the el caldo. I don't know in English.
Rough.
The broth, yeah.
Yeah.
And just like that sensation, that many flavors at once without it being like, oh, the noodles and the eggs and like adding a lot of stuff. Sometimes just the broth itself is comforting
Yeah,
and is good.
I love that. So I was gonna say I thought that you would have a hamburger because I know that that's one of your favorite pick me ups. So
Yeah,
you said you chose to do rice and beans today instead,
yeah,
and guacamole. So,
yeah. It's just it was more inventory decision because I started thinking that I don't have ketchup. And though I could order the hamburger through takeout and ask them to put ketchup on it, they probably will only bring like two. I
yeah,
don't know the name, but the thing two
yeah, two ketchup
packets.
packets, which is
Yeah,
never enough. It's never enough.
it's never enough because you use it either for the hamburger or for the fries. So that's a tough choice. And I didn't feel like I could make that choice if I'm gonna enjoy it. So I already had the red beans ready because I put them like on stew, like I prepare them, like meal prep during the weekend, and then that's one of those secret ladies out there that want to save time, or even men cooking like just meal prep. That's like beautiful decision because then you just take it and just add it to the pan and then it's hot. Eat it. But it's good. And I just created with integral rice, which I've never tried.
What kind of rice?
Integral, like integral.
I don't know what that is.
Integral bread or like.
Oh, like multi-grain. So wild rice that have like a whole bunch of
Yeah,
colors.
it's wild rice. No, I mean doesn't have many colors, but it's like wild rice. But
Mm.
I cooked it like regular rice, and it's very hard, but it's still tasty. But I'm trying, not to break a
Trying
tooth.
new things.
I'm trying to, make it softy. So that's why I have my guacamole here, just in case, to soft the landing of the rice on my teeth and, eat it. So I will eat slow this time. Definitely.
I'm so hungry. I don't know if I will be able to. Although there's so much. The one thing I do love about this meal is like you can eat it and it looks like you've not even made a dent.
I've never tasted pho.
No,
When was the first time that you tasted pho?
that's a good question. I think college.
Mm.
There were a lot of not the well where I went to school in New Jersey. There's a lot of like fast food, Asian Chinese food, which I don't really love. And a friend, um, they're like, I think you would like this. You should check it out. It's like what you're talking about. So I was like, why isn't there anywhere to get like fresh, like real Asian food? I was spoiled because it's coming from Manhattan and my family, and so Vietnamese food was, it's just really fresh. So I love it. And my friends were right. It was the perfect mix for me. So that was cool. I like that.
No. I find that very important, and like something to explore, which are like comfort foods from other cuisines that actually make you feel happy or make you pick you up, because this is a Vietnamese plate or dish.
Mm.
And for me, for example, the first time that I tried like butter chicken
Uh,
from India. Oh my god, I fell in love. I was like, we're gonna have more. And it was like, wait, so I'm gonna start, ordering on a restaurant like weekly on a weekly basis. But then I got like so a bit like addicted, but I wouldn't say like addicted, but I really wanted it. Like it was part of my staple. And then I decided to go on Thanksgiving Day to the final restaurant, like the real restaurant that I've always ordered the butter chicken, because I tried several on the area, but they were not the same as this one specifically. So I kept on buying because I tried to see if there had like other better recipes, because once you start like getting hooked up, it's like, oh, I want more. And then I went to Thanksgiving last year with my friend and with my George, our Charlie's Angels. George is also a butter chicken fan, so he is there telling us, yeah, butter chicken forever.
is
Yeah,
it spicy or is it just like flavorful? I don't know if I've done the butter chicken. Is
I
it
mean,
curry or
it's more like a curry, but it doesn't taste like curry. I mean,
right?
it doesn't taste like butter. It tastes weird. I mean, it tastes good. And it's more like turmeric, and um, because of the cream, it has like
Yeah,
white cream or like some kind of cream that
maybe.
allows it to be not as spicy or like something like that. But when I went to the restaurant on November, I went with my friend and I went with another friend, COVID protocol and everything. But we wanted to celebrate Thanksgiving Day. And that for me is like a very sacred day. Not because of, the whole Thanksgiving thing in the United States, but in Puerto Rico, that was like what the one time in my family that we all got together. Not Christmas, not, like, St.
Any other?
Valentine's or even birthdays. No, no, no. Like just Thanksgiving Day was the full day of the whole year where my whole family got together. And it was, because of many things, but we were just doing this whole like ritual of putting all the table, and everybody was bringing a dish, and it's not like, like your grandma or your grandfather is cooking for you, but rather everybody needs to like bring something. And then we did a prayer, and like we gave thanks. I mean, it's different for a lot of people in Puerto Rico, so I'm not saying that this is a rich right or ritual that we do to tergiverse Thanksgiving and the whole meaning, in the United States, etc. But my family did that, and here I've been celebrating it with my friends, calling it Friendsgiving for over like 10 years now. Everywhere I
Yeah.
go, I always celebrate like Friendsgiving. And we went to the restaurant, and there were nobody because we still like are in COVID times. And they wanted to, like, how is it? Give us a good customer service, because it's been a while since a lot of people, like walk to the restaurant. But they gave us a beautiful table, and like it was beautiful. Like they had these decors of the restaurant, like wood type, and how is it? Like this mantras scripted, and a lot of
But the
stuff.
fabric, because it's Indian, it was Indian, right? So is it like the
Yeah, but
sari?
it had like wooden
Oh,
scriptures, like,
carving.
yeah, carvings, yeah. Scriptures. Pardon my new language that I'm trying to bring here.
There's no
um
reason to ever apologize for the beautiful way that you speak.
it's my English is my second language, so I'm trying to do like Spanglish here and see if we can communicate.
Yes,
um,
exactly. So I never apologize. And you know multiple languages. Not many, like there are so few people that can say that. So be proud of it. I'm proud of it. I feel very honored to do this with you. I love you, and your energy and like bubbliness is amazing. And
thank you so
it
much.
always it's like blows me away because you write for us. Um, and English is your second language, which I'm always just so grateful to you, and all of the skills that you have. So
Thank you so much. I had French as my third language, but like, don't ask me to do like Span French or in French. Like, I'm not that good at it. I'm more like, just sweet, like very, very like survival French. Even if
mm,
I got,
I was gonna say, is it restaurant French?
no, it's just that, I mean, the thing with the French language for me is that you don't practice it with someone, like
Yeah,
the speaking language. Like I can read it and I can write it, but like this, the tongue needs exercise.
yeah, yeah.
Don't take it the wrong way, people listening. It needs exercise, but like good exercise. So anyway, this restaurant was very beautiful, and they had this how is it, TV that they used, and they had Bollywood movies, and it was incredible. But then they started like turning it up, the volume, like they highlighted the Bollywood dances, and I was like, we need to talk. Like I can't be like listening to this. This is too distracting. And then the guys, without shirts, dancing on the screen. And we were like, this is not healthy. Like we're in quarantine. Like what is this doing? I'm trying to eat and concentrate on friendship, and then suddenly on the backdrop next to me are these high music, these people dancing without their shirts on, and then they're like, where am I? So yeah, my friends ordered the same dish. Like we did like several like dishes together. They ordered the butter chicken. They loved butter chicken. Yeah. But the experience was not what I expected because we couldn't talk really. The music was so loud. And
Really?
my
Wow.
friend, who is a bit older than me, got distracted because there's a lot of distraction. And then my other friend got distracted eating the food. So like the whole like, like let's give thanks, let's connect with each other. Like that didn't happen. So we tried to do it afterwards. So we went for a wine glass on like another restaurant that had like a very low key environment, like no people, etc. But then we could only stay for 30 minutes because here the alarm started like there's like a city alarm that says that every restaurant needs to close. And yeah, so finally we got to chill, but then had to drink the wine like very easy, like very fast. And yeah, it was not what I expected. Hopefully we did gave thanks. But yeah, um,
Well, it sounds like your Thanksgiving of 2020 is kind of a reflection of just the year of 2020. So
how it went.
alarm bells sounding, drinking wine. Like, oh my God.
Talking it like
Oh my goodness. Um, I also have something super tasty. I used to get, so Thai food, I ate a lot. And there was Thai coffee. This is Vietnamese coffee, but it's made similarly, but it's like super caffeine and a ridiculous amount of sugars. It's made with condensed milk.
is that bubble tea?
No, so it's very different than the bubble tea. It's like it looks so thick because it's made with, do you know condensed milk? The really sweet milk that you make flan with?
Yeah, I know condensed milk, but I don't know the sweetest, the carnation milk, like condensed milk, like that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's super sweet. That's what makes the flan.
Mm.
So they use that instead of like milk or cream. They use that like thick, sweet condensed milk in the coffee. It's gonna give me all the energy that I need to pack and get ready for my trip tomorrow when we're done eating.
Mm. Have a bit of rest. The cafe will not allow you.
But I was gonna say no, it's gonna be the opposite of rest for sure.
You're gonna be like the energizer bar, like
Yes. I don't know where the time goes. Like every single day, I'm up between 6 and 7, and still in the afternoon, like I'll look, and then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock. I'm like, oh my God. And then I look again and it's 3 o'clock, and then it's 8 o'clock, and the day is gone, and I feel like nothing has happened. I know that I'm doing things, and people tell me I do a lot of things, and it's probably true. Um, but I don't know. I've just, this past like 2 weeks have been really hard. I don't know if anybody else has been feeling this way, but it's just different than the like COVID, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just been a year now, and I'm like not
maybe
adjusting.
the
to it.
tax,
I don't know.
the tax time. Everybody's like, oh, listening. Right?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. I also, something that my partner and I were talking about this afternoon, because he was noticing, it's just like it's been just every year the springtime feels harder and harder every single year. And one of the things I was reflecting on, and I know you think a lot about nature and the planet and the way that we interact with it. So maybe it's your influence that gave me this thought, because I was like, where did this
Isn't
thought come
it?
from? But I was thinking maybe the reason, like spring is supposed to be this time of rebirth, right? And it's like this really exciting time. The end of winter, there's always a few things hanging over that aren't quite ready to bloom yet, but it's like a very, in my mind, I guess, it's a really important and very powerful moment, the springtime, when we awaken. And I know awakening can be difficult at times, but it has felt like every single year it gets more and more difficult. And one of the things I was thinking about was, we talk about spring being the time of rebirth and everything waking back up. And I am wondering if, with our climate crisis and the number of species, from plants to animals to insects, that aren't waking up because they're no longer with us. So are we having just more and more death and less rebirth? And it's like getting heavier and heavier every year. I don't know. That was where my thoughts. Well, actually, it was like I said, a conversation my partner and I were having. I don't know. What do you think?
Mm, I feel like there's like several layers to unpack, but if there's one that is clear than probably past years, is that yeah, there's a climate crisis, and yes, there's been like a pandemic and many things happening around the world that we don't know more of because they have done the master plan of getting us in our homes without going out and like protesting and stuff. But one of the things that I think is affecting the collective consciousness is the negative media exposure and how the mainstream media, I mean, we came from 4 years of a lot of backlash to the government of the United States under the previous administration, a lot of backlash from mainstream media, and then 2020 was an election year. So you had not only the election time, the presidential election, and like the other seats, but also the pandemic, and then the other injustices that probably would not have gotten in such a big way until like it was how is it unsustainable. Like people were just so fed up with social injustice, with the the killing of um the several
Several, so many. And like now there's a trial going on for Derek Chauvin, and someone was killed like blocks away just last week. Yeah.
yeah, I think that that's what's weighing us down in a bit. I mean, it's already said, psychologically proven, that if you're having a very negative media exposure all the time, you can, have psych mental problems. Like you can develop mental health issues and emotional health issues because your view of the world, the way that you perceive reality is mostly media related. Like, how do you know that something good happens around your corner or around in your community or in your country if you don't hear it on the news, or if you don't feel like read it on social media or hear it on the radio or someone telling you via WhatsApp? It's very media related, the way that we connect with the world and we perceive the world. And if all the time we were bombarded through this fear mongering campaign on several levels, not only in terms of health issues, but also in terms of our own activism and our own profession, and even the economic downturns, because a lot of people were like, okay, so is this pandemic? Yeah, I need to guard myself, but at the same time, am I gonna lose my job? What's gonna happen to my industry? Was, like all these fear, was so it's a multi-layer campaign of fear mongering, and I interviewed last year Kimberly Lowe. She is a conflict resolution specialist. She co-authored a book called Compassionate Conversations, um, How to Speak and Listen from the Heart, a very beautiful
Yeah,
book.
she's amazing. That's so cool. You got to interview her.
Yeah, like she's incredible, and she said to me something that I didn't. I mean, I knew about the collective consciousness, but I didn't know that it had many layers. And there are several degrees to the collective consciousness. So if you want to get a message across, you need to go like from like the first realm of your immediate family, and then like continue growing. But there are several ways that you can reach other stages. And for example, she says that like on a specific level of the international relations spheres, for example, people and mindsets are on another level that people on other fields are connected to other levels, and sometimes it's difficult to connect the worlds because
Yeah.
we go to different spheres. I mean, it
I
sounds
feel
a
like
bit.
we even speak different languages in
Yeah,
those.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like even yesterday, for example, I had like a meeting with a friend of mine. She works for a corporation agency, an aid agency, and she said like, how can you like talk to rural women for like an economic empowerment project? And we were discussing this, like how can we bring like down the language from the technicism that comes from the aid world, because it's so like, oh, how can we bridge gender equality and all these things that are like important, but when you go to the field work, like people don't care, like
But they don't talk like that, and
they
like
don't talk like that. They
it
may
feels like
care,
you're
but
being condescending
yeah, but
when you
they
don't
not
speak their
necessarily understand these concepts or care to understand or care to go with you to like go to that language, so anyway, so we were also discussing this, how to like speak to that level and get a work across. And I find that very valuable. And but yeah, I feel like the negative collective consciousness is weighing on us a lot,
language.
and maybe it's like the vaccine in a way. No, but in a way, because it's like you only see the side effects after you take the vaccine. You don't have it like necessarily on the same day. So the positive or the negative, I don't know, the side effects. But the thing is, it's similar with the collective consciousness. You don't know how much it will hit you until you're exposed much time to that, and then your body starts like, shut off the news, or you fall into depression, or you just don't want to do anything, like, and just want to take a weekend to recharge, but you took the weekend, the recharging didn't happen, so you need to take 2 weeks and then a month, and everybody's different. But everybody has time as well, like how much can their bodies and their minds and their hearts can you know s-
Take
uh,
how much can we take? Yeah.
how it take, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my response.
So I think that's yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I wonder how, so like with your friend talking about like how can you go talk to rural women, and the idea of what we're doing, and the way that we got to this idea of having more difficult conversations but doing it over food. um, that seems like a really amazing approach for aid organizations to take, like inviting people to come and have a meal and to talk, to learn more about them, instead of the aid organizations showing up and being like, we're here to help you. um, Maybe they show up and it's more like, we're here to learn about you and see if there's anything that we can help you with, but we want to hear from you, from like your side, how you're going to do it, what you need. And that's really nicely done over a meal. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think that is happening, but there are still like some barriers, like structural,
Yeah.
legal, and even like economic barriers that don't allow many of these dynamics to happen,
Yeah.
specifically because aid agencies have to like sustain an image. Like, I mean, it's branding, like, if you
I
have
was
an
going to say
organization.
the reason that all of that is in place is in order to keep people in all of the like in their places. So the
Yeah,
aid
yeah,
agency has this look and feel of being the savior, and then like we're helping very very poor rural people out in fields. We like the pictures that we're going to take, we could take multitudes of pictures, but the ones that we're going to take are the ones that pull on people's heartstrings the most. So like, can we put that baby near some garbage and take a picture of them? um I, yeah, I have lots of comments about that, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
no, but it's important. And I think that, for example, something that I the Seaspiracy documentary that is
I don't
already
know
on
that.
Netflix. I mean, it's become like trend.
I don't have
um,
TV, so I don't know which one is this.
it's called Seaspiracy, and it talks about wild fishing. And like we already have probably like some image of like the killing of whales in Japan and the killing of whales in Norway. So there's also like dolphin killing and other animals in the sea. But this documentary started through talking about the killing of animals, etc. And it became something else, which is understanding how savage is the fishing industry and how unregulated it is, and how connected is the fishing industry, not industry as in like enterprises, but people that not necessarily are like registered on a government level, like you know and even like illegal and pirates organizations, but how connected are these actors to human trafficking, to animal trafficking, and like how they are using like horrible practices to harness so much fish. And the estimates of this documentary is that by 2048 the seas would not have any fish. And they had this how is it like illustrations on the documentary, because like they have like underwater a lot of cameras and all that, but they have these illustrations, and they didn't go deeper into the human trafficking and the illegal animal trade and all that. And even it's related to food, because most of animal trafficking and all that has to do with the high cuisine, and
Yeah.
like these top restaurants either in China or in European Union, etc. But they started talking about a bit of it because they could get killed. And
Yeah.
second, they said something very important, which is how at every level, governments, enterprises, and even environmental NGOs, they are still not tackling the cause. And for me, like one of the big statistics, two big statistics that really, like
Jumped out at you.
yeah, was basically that the microplastics campaigns that many environmental groups have, like like don't use straws, don't use paper bags, or plastic bags and all that, amount to 0.05% of all the plastics that are on the sea. And the thing that you were saying right now is how agencies take specific pictures. The same happens with the environmental organizations. They put always the picture of the turtle with the straw on the nostril, or like the bags on the mouth of a fish, etc. But they don't tell you that 46% of all the plastics in the six and in the sea is from fishing gear.
Yeah. It's
Fishing,
from fishing nets. And like that's what causes so much harm in the ocean. And that's not something that we ever talk about. Yeah.
no, horrible, horrible. But it's how connected as well is through the aid agencies, because they the one thing that got very clear for me for that documentary was how organizations engage in these dynamics in order to survive.
Yeah.
If they fix the problem, if they talk about the fishing industry, if they go the route of stop fishing because of the sea needs to, the how is it, the fishing pyramid of like the bigger fish eat the middle fish, and the middle fish eat the smaller fish, etc. If we change that, then a lot of organizations will cease to exist. A lot of certifications for tuna cans will stop existing.
Yes and no. So like I hear this argument a lot, and as someone who has a nonprofit myself, it frustrates me a bit because I don't think that it really speaks to the actual problem with grants and the way that nonprofits are run, and the way that they are expected to exist without any monetary support. So I don't actually think that the organizations would disappear, and that's why they're doing these things. They're doing these things because the only way that they can exist is through grant money and through sponsorship and like different types of funding that then dictate what they're able to do, what types of
Yeah.
like and you have to be able to show results. So if we're talking about work, and you can get a lot of money for advocacy and for raising awareness, but the type of awareness that they want you to raise is about those straws, not about the fishing industry. So when you accept that grant money, you're beholden to their agenda. It's one reason Peak is unfunded. I fund it myself so that I'm not beholden to people, but that also means I hustle my ass off because I don't have any funding. But it allows us to be independent. And I think there's this really difficult, nearly impossible space that organizations are in, especially in the nonprofit world, because I know a lot of these humans that are amazing people that feel very kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you're still doing the work, you're still doing what you're passionate about. Like, and that's the thing about people who run and start and work in nonprofits. We do it because we're passionate. And there's this fight inside of like, is what I'm doing making a difference at all? If I'm not doing it, then does it not get done? Should I not bother doing it because it's not to where I want it to be? There's a lot to unpack there. But I think that the big main issue is the way that money enters into what we do. And this is, I know, very specific to the US. So this is not on the international level. I don't know about nonprofits in other countries. I'm familiar with a handful. Like in Germany, I know that their nonprofits run out of their government. They claim that they have a lot of autonomy. I don't know, but and I don't know what the answer is, except my feeling is if people believe that good work is being done, they should give money without, like, I don't know, what's the right word? Like, yes, you should be accountable and have to follow through and file reports, but this connection between the way that nonprofits receive money and then what they're allowed to do with their mission, it's really messed up. And again, I was saying, I don't know what the grand solution would be. The solution for me and Peak was to do everything independently, and just only fundraise from people, from community. And that's the route we've gone. And so far,
many people can relate to that. I have friends that own also nonprofits, and they feel like if they go the grant route, or like subventions from governments, or like all that, like they get tied. And it depends. Like there are several like interests at hand, and everybody's different. But what, one thing that really made me like rethink a lot, not only in terms of fish, we were gonna have fish tacos today.
we were.
So all fish lovers, something to think about, and us meat lovers also something to think about, which is more like the consumption rate. And that's what I find very troublesome, is when we try to go to the extreme. Because like, for example, in Puerto Rico right now, there's this whole movement to like target fishermen on the coast, and like have their land taken away to create mega projects, etc. And this, like, it's not as easy as saying, oh, stop fishing, because it's so bad. It's like, for some people, that's the only source of income, and that's the only source of like feeling that they can eat. They don't necessarily like fishing because, oh, it's so luxury and it brings a lot of money. Sometimes they just do it to survive. That's what they eat, like.
Well, and there's that big difference between like the commercial fishing industry versus the local fisherman who is doing it to survive. And I was gonna ask
because
you,
a local fisherman is not gonna take like tons and tons of fish. If not,
and they're not using huge, like the plastic that they're talking about coming from fishing is not from local fishermen. That's from those huge nets that they dredge the floor, everything gets caught up in it. And then oftentimes they leave them at the bottom of the ocean, and then fish and whales and like that's what's killing the animals in the ocean. I lived in Japan when the documentary about whaling came out.
That blackfish?
Yeah, I was
Oh.
living there when that came out. I am not for killing whales. I'm not. But it was difficult to be there and to talk to the elders in those communities because it's not the whole island. It's this tiny, small, little enclave of indigenous people that have been doing this forever. And like going there and seeing their communities and how the fish are used, like they use every single, it's very similar to what the Inuits do in Alaska. And the film did not at all show or reflect reality. It was very, you know,
Judgmental films. I think that sometimes we fall into the judgment route and don't understand that there are like several cultures. I'm not saying that this culture is good or bad, or like like we need to stop the whaling or allow the whaling, because like I'm not saying that, but it's also this conversation on the globalization and who has the moral response to tell other peoples and other cultures what's good or bad to do in their own land. Because I had this similar conversation with the women's aspect as well. Like, it is easy to demonize, like the patriarchal societies in the Middle East and say like, oh, they are giving the women, they don't have rights, women don't have rights, and they are alone, etc. It's like they need to have gender equality and have 50-50. And that's our own view as Westerners through liberal feminism, which has been fed with us, with the liberal agenda of top organizations here in the West, telling other people what's their reality and what their reality should be in order to achieve this gender equal world. And for them, have we asked them what they feel about it? Oh no, but if we ask them and they don't agree with our vision, then we start saying, oh, you need to learn more. I'm gonna give you access to education so you think like me, which is what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in Iraq, and what's happening in many countries in Africa and Latin America. You're not thinking like me? I'm gonna give you a grant. I'm gonna give you a program with my feminist foreign policy plan, so you start developing and becoming economically empowerment through my lenses.
Right.
And that's not something cool. And the same, I think,
Well, yeah, I see that. I guess Japan is the place I have the most experience outside of the United States because I lived there for over 5 years. When I first went there, I was coming in with this mindset of being a Westerner, and also the stereotypes of what Japanese women are, and that there's a lot of misogyny in Japan, and that's just like generally quote unquote understood in the US. And when I went to Japan, it was fascinating once I started speaking to the women there, especially the older women. Like there are certainly a lot of issues in every country with women's rights, but it was very different from what I thought. The women there were quite happy with the way that things are organized within their society. They wanted access to more education and better jobs, but all in all, the way that society was broken down and the gender roles that were in that society, they're like, I know what you women in America are saying, but you don't understand. Like, we run our house, we control all of the money, we have the kids, like we can do whatever we want. Like what you guys are talking about, I don't want that. Like that doesn't sound appealing to me at all. And I was like, imagine that. So like their view of women's rights was so incredibly different than what my thought was and what I thought the conversation, where I thought it would go. And And like what I was fired up about and what I thought was misogynistic, they're like, no, actually, we control all the money. Like what you guys don't in America don't understand is that the women in Japan control all the money. I was like, oh. I was like, what do you mean by control? And they're like our husbands work, they don't have access. Their paycheck comes into my account and I control all of the money. And I was like, oh. And she's like, and no, I'm not at all interested in changing that. I like it this way. Like, this is how our society has run. It's wonderful. Like, we're responsible. We know what's going to happen. We know where everything is. And I want to keep it that way. And I was like, that's news to me. And yeah, and like you were saying, it was my lens and my thoughts from my Western point of view coming in. And fortunately for me, I went in with the mindset of just wanting to learn instead of projecting like my viewpoint on people. But it was, I had to bite my tongue a lot and often because I realized that I was very much out of my depth there.
I
And
think
that I
that's one
didn't.
of the struggles with globalization as well. And for example, this specific topic on disease is like
Mm,
these are like unruled. We need to have like the moral obligation of taking care of the fish because who's gonna help the fish? But then if we start going that route, it's like who's gonna help the gorillas and who's gonna help the plants and who's gonna like because everybody like we are all interconnected and it's difficult because I know that soy plantations that are growing each time more because plant-based and veggie food etc are also creating like the second emissions after the meat industry and it's or the cow farms or I don't know the name but like
almond milk is one of the worst things for the planet.
and the palm
Yes.
oil. So I mean I get that there are like different ways that we can approach this, but the whole globalization conversation is the one that's not still addressed because we still want the lenses of it should apply to all the fish in all the world. Like we should allow the seas to just stay as it is and never touch it, as if that's a social pact that the 6 billion people in the planet agreed upon, which is not gonna happen because we don't speak
Well,
all
and the thing that you brought up about the documentary you were watching about 48% of the plastic coming from fishing, I venture to say that that's probably commercial fishing. And it fascinates me that we focus, like, usually these types of documentaries, and probably because it's easier access, but going back to this point of like demonizing small indigenous communities for their practices. Like they are not having the impact that you're talking about. Like they're not the ones doing, like whatever they're doing is not having the impact that you're talking about. The people having the impact that you're talking about are huge corporations that are dredging fish and taking them by the like hundreds and millions of tons. Like those fishermen that are using lines or like even small nets in their small coastal areas, like that's not,
but
that's
that's those are the scenes that
right.
get praised like we don't know who's doing it. What we see on the scene is how bad it is to do it,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it is a big corporation or like indigenous tribes or is part of a culture etc. Like the guy for example goes to Japan for a specific area where dolphins are getting like killed like dolphins,
Hmm.
and then he goes to Norway for like the fest. There's like a fest of
Yeah,
killer
there's a
whales
festival
or
there.
something there, and he presents all the images of the black bath, and it's horrible to watch. It's
Yeah.
horrible. But then like there were several things came to my mind. It's like you know this is more like white privilege. Like you can travel to Norway as a white British guy, very handsome by the way, go to Norway, which you don't have problems getting the passport to record and have the whales and like bring this view of how bad it is because you're killing whales. Why do you travel to Norway to tell them that that's wrong? Like it's just weird because where is the where's the limit, or where is that our view stops being imperialistic to other people's way of thinking, being, and behaving. Like some of these fishermen, or I don't know, big corporation, but some of the fishermen probably have never gone out of Norway or out of Japan. That's their life.
Well, yes, I can definitely say like those small little villages where they were talking, they were devastated by the tsunami, and I did a lot of work up there. And that's how I got to visit those regions. But no, I mean they travel around Japan and like they're not stuck there, and it's not like ancient times, but they're it's fishing villages, and that's a hard life. Um, and the traveling is like selling their fish and like their wares, and I don't know, it's such a different, like I was saying, it's so incredibly different than what was portrayed. And that to me, I actually haven't thought about that movie since it happened. I was annoyed and frustrated when I was living there and it came out and they're like, oh my God, did you see this? Did you know that this was happening where you are? Like, go stop it. And then I watched it and I was like, that is not what is happening here at all.
But it's
But
the
then I just
hypocrisy of it all as well, because just like last couple of days, I don't know when, but I watched the review of Godzilla versus Kong, the movie. And I
yeah.
know it's not related to this, but like people actually love this kind of movies, or destroying the freaking world and having lizards, like dropping nuclear bombs on the sea and all that. And they eating popcorn watching this because it's like entertainment. But like, let's not talk about the fishing industry, or let's become moral about the fishing industry and not become moral about King Kong killing each other and having a Godzilla. This is
Well, the thing that's fascinating about that is that it's Gojira was originally from Japan, and it was a movie, it was a protest movie about the nuclear, like what the US was doing and about all of the testing. It's a really amazing old movie, which I have, and I'm happy to share it with you.
I'm okay. I
Well,
want to
it's
watch lizards and
well, it's so the original Gojira, it's more about the Japanese people and the testing that's going on, and like them trying to stop the testing, and this huge mutated lizard that comes up out of the sea, and it's like proving that we don't have control and we don't know enough about this new energy and we should stop using it. Like that, it was this really amazingly done piece way back in the day. And it's interesting to me what that franchise has turned into,
yeah.
which is like the complete opposite of what the original movie was intended for.
But I think that's what's worrisome, is that there are like $200 million budget for these type of productions to get on the mainstream media and to get like share all across the globe, and everybody's like, did you watch Khan? Like, who won? It's like, like, and when you start seeing the movie, Khan was jailed and then used by humans and brought through these nets to go to the Arctic Sea and drop him to fight Godzilla. And that way it didn't work because there was several rounds. I didn't watch the full movie because it was too hard for me. So I started watching like the video version on YouTube, the review that has all the spoilers, like the 10-minute video, so you don't have to endure all this fighting. And then they go and destroy cities afterwards. They drop Kong and Godzilla on a city and destroy all buildings. And where is the people? Where are the fish? What about like the air and like
Yeah,
pollution? No, that's not matter because it's fiction. It's not that fiction. I
yeah,
just
we're doing that right now.
It's
Like,
horrible. I saw this video on Instagram. A friend of mine told me like they found a big lizard, like a crocodile, like going through the bundles of the supermarket, like going through the racks of the supermarket. I was like, that's Godzilla's kid. Like it's finally arriving to our stores, in our stores nearby. You start like becoming crazy, and then
Godzilla's going to attack me in the supermarket. Maybe he'll stop us from buying too much fish and meat.
yeah, it's very ugly, so he might. It's like,
That is so funny. So I am seeing that we actually have already gotten to 7 o'clock. We haven't talked that much about food.
only we did.
We did.
Godzilla can be,
Well,
cooked and put in a table. Like
I was
there's
gonna say
more.
we didn't talk that much about comfort food. So in our last few minutes, I wanted to share. So this is my like, I don't feel sick today, but normally if I'm like not feeling under the weather or cold outside, but also feel cold inside. I don't know if you get that, but sometimes I feel cold inside. So that's my soup comfort food. But I also oxtails, which we tried to eat together and we haven't been able to do so, is one of my like nostalgic, homey, feel comforting in that kind of way. Like you were talking about the rice and beans for you. It like is nostalgic and it makes you feel like comfort, like home. I would say like oxtails, rice and beans, and platanos. That meal is like super nostalgic and feels really good to me. So I was wondering for you, when you want something like you're feeling a little under the weather, what kind of soup do you go to for your comfort food?
I like tomato soup or
Really?
sancocho. Yeah, I
What's
like sancocho, which is um like malanga, plátano soup together. Like they use a lot of roots and they put it together. Like for example, Colombian sancocho is similar to Puerto Rican sancocho. So here there's Colombian restaurants, so I go and buy my sancocho and just eat it at home. I don't use many of the ajiaco thing that they had. I just use sancocho, and yeah, I would say soup. I would say rice and beans. Things that ground you, things that remind you of home, and figuring out ways where you take care of yourself. It's not about stuffing yourself up to like not being able to move on the chair. It's just it feels good. And I think that even if we are in diets and trying to eat better, sometimes like when it's whole food and good food, like with Siroin, for him, like comfort food is the peanut butter sandwich. Like on our second episode, I invite everybody to check it out because that was an incredible conversation. His comfort food was peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
yeah,
And I was like, how is that possible? Like because we have these stereotypes that it needs to be soup, it needs to be rice. It depends to everybody
yeah,
what really is grounding you, what really makes you feel happy, it picks up your mood.
yeah.
um, I don't think that we often allow that to happen. We leave it for special occasions, but not necessarily eat it on a regular basis. And maybe that's why we're so grumpy. Maybe we need to have more comfort food every week.
Yeah,
Make it a habit.
maybe. I think so. Um, but I like what you were just saying. And when we were talking, it also something that kind of came up was the idea, nostalgia and home is not a safe place for everybody. Um, so this idea of like comfort food, it doesn't have to be
It could
nostalgic.
be from another country. Like,
Well,
you
yeah, like
talk
mine.
about, yeah, you talk about yours. I talk about butter chicken. I didn't have it here because, it was more handy. But, just pick one thing, regardless of, good or bad memories, we always have a plate that no matter how bad is the day or how rainy is the day, we eat it as if there's no tomorrow. It's like if that was my last meal on earth, I would eat it and I will feel the most happy person ever. Will die with a happy belly. mean, I don't want to talk about death, but how can we heal through the power of comfort food? I think is a big question mark that I suggest to all our audience members to take it with you for reflection and to share it with us on social media. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and share with us your impressions, and maybe tag us if you have a plate and if you prepare a plate that's for you comfort food. Please do so. Tag us on social media. We would love to read it and
Yeah.
tell you the recipe.
I was going to say, and share those recipes. So, one thing that has been really exciting with the episodes that we've done so far, we've gotten a lot of traction with our recipes. So, we're going to continue to do those for everyone. They've been very popular. So, that's really exciting. So, we would love for you guys out there to share some recipes with us. And I think hashtag PowerShift comfort food can be our first one. What do you think?
Or hashtag power shifters. Let's
Yeah.
connect power shifters out there.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there is any other, well, it's not the healthiest, but mac and cheese, I think is my like, not the box kind, although, well,
I like the
that's
box
not true.
one.
I was gonna say the box kind, you start with that, but I always have to add in like 20 other cheeses because it's just not enough cheese. Um, yeah, so that was gonna be my comment. Like I don't cook really. But when I do, I like to mix things up a little bit. But like mac and cheese, I like bigger noodles or shells, but then adding in a tremendous amount of cheese into it. Um, I'm a cheese monster. I love, love, love cheese. There's normally
Tom and
like,
Jerry with you. Right, let's bring her a slice of cheese and she's gonna be a happy lady. So
yes,
let's try to figure out. So for some people are chocolates and for you cheese.
I didn't really like chocolate until I was older. I know I'm strange. And I don't really like milk chocolate at all. I prefer dark chocolate, at least 60%. Because I want it to be a little bitter. I like that like bitter and sweet combo.
Yeah. So it was lovely to share here this
Yeah.
conversation on the healing power of the comfort food. This is going to be an ongoing conversation. So I invite everybody to follow us on social media, also to join our Patreon community if you are interested in supporting this project to continue growing. And also, I think, Rebecca, in order to close this episode, to take in consideration a minute of silence for Cayenne. I think that would be a good end. And yeah, I'd love to continue power shifting.
Yes, I love that idea, and we'll definitely end on a moment of silence. Our handles are Facebook at PowerShift Table, Patreon/PowerShift, and on Instagram we're PowerShift. So please join us, send us some pictures, send us some recipes. Please send us some recipes. And I love that idea, Natalia. So we'll close out with a moment of silence for Cayenne. So we're sending you so much love to you and your family on this day as you're going through this really difficult time.